Now, whether you're a Gen Xer like me or a baby boomer, aging can bring fear. And while everyone in history's past has had to deal with a lot of these common fears, what we don't have to do today is go through them alone. And with fear, the real battle is in our minds. That's why we need to talk about them together out loud. And just because these fears may seem common or normal, that doesn't mean that we have to embrace them or accept them. So let's talk about them. Okay, the number one fear that I want to discuss is the fear of losing independence or becoming a burden. Now, the great Betty Davis once said that aging isn't for sissies. And I think Betty was pretty tough. I mean, it was rumored that she could have smoked up to 5 packs of cigarettes a day. She lived till she was 81. You know, if not for the smokes, she might still be alive today at 117, still making movies. I think all of us hope that we have the ability to endure life for as long as we live without becoming a burden on someone else. Firsthand, I see how hard just doing daily activities, how hard those can be for my own mother. And, you know, from a caregiver perspective, I see how impatient I can get, you know, taking care of her. But losing our independence could happen at any age due to unfortunate, you know, circumstances. And deep down, we all know that if we live long enough, some level of it may be inevitable. And independence can mean a whole lot of things, not just physical ability, but financial control, mental clarity, the freedom and independence to drive, to choose to live on your own terms. And all of that matters. It's all important. So where do we find peace of mind in the face of this fear? Now here's anchor number 1. Do what you can now. Stay as fit as possible. Take care of your health. Manage your money wisely. Stay engaged mentally. Now those things aren't guarantees, but they're powerful tools. And it should be the number one things that we're doing, especially now as we are in our 50s and approaching our 50s. But then also take care of the just in case items. Have your medical directives in place, an emergency contact list, a power of attorney designation. I mean, that kind of prep can actually reduce your anxiety because it gives you a little more control over the unknown. And if the worst was to happen, just think back over your life and all of the hard things that you've had to endure, and you've come out on the other side of it. Losing your independence doesn't mean you lose yourself. You'll figure things out, you'll adapt, and you'll survive. And while most of us can all say that we pray we don't become a burden on someone, we can also pray that if someone does need to step in to take care of us, that love will prevail. Okay, the number 2 fear is the fear of declining health. A lot of us are watching our parents face their declining health issues. That alone makes us think of our own futures. But here's anchor number 2. Don't focus on what could go wrong. Just focus on what you can do that's right. Eat better, move more, and manage your stress levels. Those 3 things alone, if you can just do something that touches on those 3 things, you'll be way ahead of most everyone else. Now, don't skip the doctor, and don't give up all your control to them either. Know your numbers, ask questions, and if you pray, lean into that, because there's research that shows and proves that prayer does improve health outcomes. Okay, the third common fear of aging is the fear of outliving your savings. Now, unlike the previous 2 fears, declining health and losing our independence, this isn't some ancient, timeless fear. This is a more modern one. Generations before us didn't often live long enough to worry about running out of money. And more recent generations before us, they had something we don't. They had guaranteed pensions and Social Security, and put those together, that was enough to live on. But for us, the rules have changed. We're pioneers on a new financial frontier. And while some of us may have struck gold, the rest of us are staring down skyrocketing prices in just about every category, uncertainty about Social Security's future, and a future that entirely depends upon what our 401k balance is. But here's anchor number 3. And beyond just saving as much as you can, there's also mindset that you have to address. Because even those that have saved plenty of money for their retirements, they still face this fear. Because it's difficult to, after 40 plus years of saving, that's been the mindset. It's hard to flip that switch all of a sudden and go into, 30 plus years of spending all of that savings. Maybe you don't need as much in retirement as you think you do. There's a lot of, research that shows in the earlier years, younger years of your retirement, you'll spend more on travel and just doing things that you've wanted to do. But once people reach their 80s and beyond, spending goes down, except for maybe healthcare. Of course, that's still not a perfect formula, is it? And if your current savings balance doesn't support the lifestyle that you want to live in retirement, you've got basically 2 options. Just keep working, full or part-time, or find a way to really lower your expenses, such as moving, downsizing, relocating, maybe even moving abroad. And when you run your numbers, don't leave Social Security out, because it is still there for us. The media loves to scare us with doomsday headlines, regarding, the fate of Social Security. And you can also look into annuities. You can purchase annuities that will give you that guaranteed income. But there are so many different kinds of annuities, and there are annuities that you need to stay away from. So do your research on that. Determine what your number is that's going to be enough. Commit to that, stick to it, and move forward. Okay, number 4, the fear of being irrelevant. Now, relevance happens throughout our lives, and of course this fear hits everyone a little differently, and I thought it would bother me more than it has. But what I've come to realize is that I've only ever really been relevant to the peer group that I was a part of at whatever particular time. When I was 25, I wasn't relevant to people in their 50s. And now that I am in my 50s, I don't expect to be relevant to Gen Zers, and that's totally fine with me. What does matter to me is having a voice and knowing there are people out there that want to hear it. That's why I started this YouTube channel, and that's why my content is aimed at Gen Xers and people over 45, because we still have a lot to say and a lot of value to offer. And if I can be relevant to those in my age group, no matter what my age is, then I'm going to be happy with that. But here's anchor number 4 for this fear. Let's say that this fear of becoming irrelevant is tied to your career. Of course, the antidote to that is just staying current. You can't stop the aging process, but you can make an effort to stay current. Whether that's with technology or with research, if that applies to your field. Follow the news that's happening in your industry. If this fear is more personal, about your sense of self, then just remember that you are always relevant to the people who love you, to the ones who share your values, your memories, your humor. You don't need to be relevant to everyone to be valuable. Just focus on being meaningful to those in your circle and let the rest go. Okay, the fifth fear is the fear of being alone. Now, this fear can even stir up some nasty emotions, such as shame or self-pity. I mean, even resentment and anger, at those that have estranged you or those that have ghosted you, and you feel that you wouldn't be alone if they hadn't done that. You may fear that there may be no one to call, no one to check in on you, no one that really knows or sees you. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, that fear cuts deep. And as we age, it gets more and more real. Friends move away or drift away. People pass away. Families can change. In the slow erosion of your social circle, it can really sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. And you may feel like there's nothing you can do to stop it. But here's anchor number 5. You'll probably have to stretch out of your comfort zone, but do everything that you can to keep relationships alive and breathing. And I know it takes 2 people to keep a relationship going. Just don't let you be the one that drops the ball on it. And I even personally know people that have formed really good friendships just by showing up somewhere, week after week, a few days a week, like the gym or church. I mean, sometimes you just have to put yourself out there a little. And don't underestimate the power of having a pet. Having a dog waiting at home for you, or a cat somewhere nearby purring, that might seem small or unimportant, but it's not. That presence, that companionship, it can make all the difference on a hard day. Now, just a little intermission break here. If you're getting value from my content, I hope that you will consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. My channel is still small, but growing. And by you subscribing, it tells YouTube that content like this matters to us. Thank you. Now, the 6th fear is the fear of dying, or dying in a bad way. Now, this fear is closely related to fear number 2 of declining health, because the worst health outcome, ultimately, is death. But the fear of death isn't always related to illness. It could also be the fear of dying badly, through suddenly or tragically or painfully. And I'll be honest, this fear overrides just about every other fear on this list for me. I have an overactive imagination sometimes. And if I've been watching too many true crime shows, or I've been sucked into hours of news coverage on a plane crash, my thoughts can kind of spiral into all of those what if scenarios. What if that was me? So here's anchor number 6. Now, outside of turning off the true crime shows and the 24/7 news coverage, which I highly recommend, start by identifying the core of that fear. If it's a fear of dying from disease, then be proactive with your health. I know I sound like a broken record with that. If it's the fear of dying in a car accident, then work on your driving skills. Don't speed. Don't drive distracted. Reduce those risky behaviors. Then reframe your mindset. Start speaking life over yourself. Literally. Choose a mantra, like a positive confession, and speak it out loud. Don't just think it. No, you've got to say it out loud. That really matters. Choose something like, I will live a long life full of health and love. And just repeat that. Say it 3 times when you wake up in the morning and 3 times when you go to bed. Another one could be, I will age gracefully and live peacefully to an old age. And your mind responds to those things that you repeat, just like the fears. If you let those fears repeat in your mind, all the time, you get ingrained with that. But you can flip it around and say something that's the opposite of that fear. If you begin telling yourself a more peaceful, hope-filled story, your brain begins to believe it. And that can shift the way you experience life in every way. Number 7 fear is fear of regret. Now this fear has teeth because it can gnaw away at your insides for years. Some regrets can be huge. Prisons are full of people with regret. But we can also build prisons within ourselves. There has to be a way where we can be sorrowful for an action that maybe we committed. But then we need to find a way to let it go and move forward from it. A way to find peace and not let that thing keep hanging around way past its welcome. And the answer to that, and anchor number 7, is forgiveness. Regret boils down to you blaming yourself for something that you can't undo or redo or fix. You have to find a way to forgive yourself. Let your regrets teach you, not trap you. Another thing is to be present, because most fears, they're future-based. They're the what ifs. But regret can live in both worlds. It can live in the past or the future. If we can find a way to stay present, that's where our peace lives. What I want us to do is to take some of that fear out of aging. We already know that we've got to be tough for what lies ahead. And fear can severely get in the way of that. There's nothing wrong with true vulnerability. And there's no shame in admitting that some of these things scare you. You aren't the only one. I welcome you to share what concerns you the most in the comments below. We can help each other that way. I hope this helped you today. I truly appreciate you watching. I've got a few more ideas on aging well, and I'm going to link a video right here on how our 50s body is changing and how to take control of that. There's another Betty Davis quote in there as well, by the way. Have a wonderful week ahead. Come back to see me in the next video, and I'll see you then. Bye.